Well, Eric, without further ado, let us just jump in. And
Let's go.
I am so excited to have you here with me today. So, you and I met through, I think, mutual friends. We heard about one another, and here we are
Yes.
today. And let's
Yes.
jump into your story because I find it fascinating. And where I would love to go is, how did you get from where you started to where you are today? And let's see if we can give some action steps, some thoughts for people that might be wondering, is there life beyond aphasia?
Well, that
Well,
short answer is yes.
good.
We're going to start the story.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
Okay. Back in March of 2013, I had my ischemic stroke. And what happened is I went to the bathroom. I was exiting the bathroom and I just started to throw up. And I didn't really know what was happening. I thought it was maybe food poisoning. But after I cleaned up the best I could, I did feel weak and I crawled from the bathroom to my bed and I just went to sleep for the night. It wasn't until the next morning when I rolled out of bed and I immediately put my feet on the ground and stood up, and then gravity pretty much pulled me right back down. And I realized I didn't have any balance.
Wow.
And just on the whim, I just started talking, and it was very gibberish. Didn't know what was going on. So after I did get to the ER, and the nurse, well, the front desk person, which is great because she's probably heard this many a times. When I heard what I was saying, it didn't sound good at all. But she knew. She knew. So after I was diagnosed with a stroke, and just to fast forward, I didn't have no reaction when he said you had a stroke because I didn't really know what it was. So immediately I did some testing and started my physical therapy and my speech therapy. The stroke pretty much on my right side was all numb, no balance, and it also affected my speech. I never lost what I wanted to say. For about 5 days, you just really couldn't understand what I was saying. And as far as the aphasia part, when I did have speech therapy, I had about maybe 3 or 4 sessions, and she might have said I had aphasia, but I really don't remember because it has been 12 years. But maybe jumping ahead, it wasn't until about a year ago. I was at work and I just happened to type difficulty speaking after a stroke. That's the first time I saw the word aphasia.
Hmm.
And I said maybe I wasn't diagnosed with that, but I said that's what I have. I said that's it. And that's when I went on a journey as far as to start researching everything about aphasia. And don't know a common contact of ours. Don't know which tack room we met in, but did meet Phil. And Phil has a 25-page document or so. I pretty much call it. I renamed it the Stroke Rehabilitation Aphasia Bible because what he has is so many resources as far as independent studies and Zoom groups and aphasia communities that I've been dealing with for about maybe 3, 4 months. I might be a third way through. With that document, I have done maybe 6 or 7 independent studies as far as aphasia or stroke rehabilitation. I've been on tens and tens of Zooms with other people who had aphasia and all or rehabilitation from stroke. And I just keep doing it. I've been lucky to participate in some podcasts and then also some live group sessions with people with aphasia that I've happened to go to, and it's been a big light just to know that I think but I think it's 2 million. I forget the exact number who has aphasia, but you never hear of it.
Yeah.
So this is like my own little community that you can deal with as many times a day, and it's been very very enlightening as far as the second phase, if you will, of my rehabilitation.
What do you think naming it did for you? Because it almost feels like it was a turning point. What made you even Google speech differences after a stroke?
Maybe, Genevieve, because pretty much when I regulate my talking from morning to evening, it varies. Like in the morning, I always say I'm like a car. In the morning, I need to warm up a little bit, and then my voice kind of comes out. It's okay for a while. But if I constantly talk in the evening, maybe 5, 6 o'clock or later, you can hear my volume decrease. You can hear my words slur. And I said, I have something, but I didn't know what it was. And that was the basis of researching pretty much those words. And when aphasia came up, it was like, boom, that's it. I want to know how you get it, what it is, how you can prove it. And in my case, meeting persons who have it and joining, like I said, Zooms and in person aphasia communities. And so it was kind of like an avalanche that for the good, if you will.
Yeah.
That was definitely the reason why.
Yeah. So sometimes it's come across with some of my clients that I work with. Sometimes I don't meet them until years after a stroke.
Okay.
And like you, they may not know those terms. They probably heard of when they were in the hospital or in rehab, but they were not at a place to really process. And it's a weird word,
Yes.
right? It's odd. And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't stick. Doesn't stick in the
Yes.
brain. Well, let's talk about some of your inspiration. So you got a hold of Phil's Bible, and by the way, we're talking about Aphasia Phil, who's my buddy,
Yes.
and he's
Yes.
got those wonderful resources. You jumped into some research. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. There are plenty of, well, mostly colleges I've dealt with who do studies as far as people who have rehabilitated from stroke and also aphasia. And the studies can be just talking back and forth so they can see and hear my voice. One speech therapist actually saw that my lips will curl when I talk, and she recognized it immediately and said, "Yeah, you definitely have aphasia, maybe a form of dysphagia." So she knew, and I wanted to get more or less validation that I had it, even though I didn't. I had it, but I wanted to get a speech therapist to tell me I had it. So when I go to the Zooms and studies, I can actually say I've been diagnosed with it instead of saying, "Oh, I have it," but in the back of my mind, nobody really told me I had it. But the therapies could be different puzzles as far as the challenge your brain. Um, I more or less brain teases, which I've never been good at before, so that was very challenging. And a lot of memory tests, and also some basic reading, tongue twisters. a lot of things that would actually challenge your voice. And I've done studies with University of Purdue, University of Rhode Island, Boston University, University of Delaware, just to name a few. And they've all been different but challenging as well.
I love that. I love that you have put yourself out there. You're willing to experiment and you just keep advocating both for yourself and for others by participating in those opportunities.
Yes. Mm.
So, when I think of stroke recovery, I think of it in some ways, it's a line, it's linear. There's things that have to happen for recovery. For a person to get to where you are 12 years after, there's things that you have to go through. And somehow you did it without getting much speech therapy and
Mhm.
coaching and support. So you had to kind of go through, who am I? And who am I now? Who was I? Who am I now? And who do I want to be? And I think that is a component that often doesn't get addressed in therapy, but somehow
Yes.
you got through this without any therapy or very minimal.
Yes. Mm.
How did you do this, Eric?
Well, one, you mentioned inspiration. You know how you have the two characters on your shoulders, good, bad, whatever the case is. When I was first rehabbing, dad on one shoulder, mother on the other shoulder.
Okay.
And my dad was very quick to the point. Not a lot of chit chat. Just do what you got to do and get it done, no matter what it is. My mom was your typical mom. She was my biggest cheerleader of all the time. She just was happy that I was making an effort and maybe having fun doing it, if you will. So while I was just walking, I would think of the two of them. First, my dad would going, "It's 6 o'clock in the morning. How come you didn't get up and start at 4 o'clock in the morning? The day the day has been wasted. You should have this done already, and then go on with whatever you have to do. And and don't quit, and don't be sad about it or discouraged about it. Just get it done." That's my dad. Then I have my mom going, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. Oh, you're doing great. Keep it up." Your typical mom cheerleading, if you will. So those two were always my motivation. And with that, no matter what your recovery is, you have to put in the effort. You don't know what's going to happen, but if you put in the effort, I think some of your goals will come through. And then that motivates you to keep it up.
That's right.
And the saying, I always say this, it's so simple, but it's so true in this aspect. It's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I remember, 12 years ago, just rehabbing and just talking on my own and thinking it would get better. And I would notice it when I would have appointments with my doctors, and they would say, "You talk a lot better than you did 6 months ago." So again, validation that the effort is doing well. And again, that marathon, not a sprint. It's every day. It's every day. And 12 years out, I'm even proud of what's happened as far as my speech and as far as my balance and as far as my strength. And it's not over yet. I'm hoping in another 10 years or maybe next year, I improve some more. It's not over because I'm not done with the marathon yet.
Love that. You have such an amazing outlook, Eric. Is that something you've always had?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
And again, it's my parents. It's
Okay.
my upbringing. I've I didn't see them ever nervous. I know they might have missed a day at work, but I never saw it because when I was home, they were home or they were working. So when I'm feeling, not up to par when you wake up, I think of them. I was like, well, they didn't miss a day at work. They were never sick. They were never nervous. So get up and do it. So that's definitely been instilled with them. That's all my parents, and luckily it stuck with me, and I try to use it every day.
Love this. Okay, so I know your backstory in that you got just a little bit of rehab and then you went home and you started figuring things out at home for your therapy, for working on your balance. And this is probably one of my most favorite parts of your story because it shows your warrior spirit, for lack of a better term, right?
Thank you.
You figured it out. So, could you just paint the picture for the folks listening? What are some of the things you did at home to do rehab for yourself?
Sure. With physical therapy, immediately I thought, let's just walk. Because I walked very slowly and maybe with a limp. So what I did, there's a college about a mile from me that has an oval track that it's old, so nobody's ever there. So I just started to walk one lap, which is a quarter of a mile. It might have taken 15 minutes. I was tired, but I did it every day. Just try to increase, and within a month or two, I was up just walking straight about maybe like 5, 6 miles. I would seek out different trails just for scenery and just to walk a longer distance. And so slowly my balance was coming back. And as far as speech therapy, I would literally just grab anything in my house. I'd grab a mustard container and start reading out loud the ingredients. Whatever paperwork I had laying around, I would just read it out loud. It could be a bill, it could be instructions on how to put together, a bench. It could be anything. It didn't matter what it was. But that was my speech therapy. And I realized with speech therapy that, again, if I did it in the morning, I was fine. If I did it in the evening, I could tell the difference of the speech. And so I just thought I need to regulate my speech during the course of a day. So in the morning time, I won't speak unless I have to. It might be 3, 4 hours, but 11 o'clock might be the first time I actually talk. And then I realize after 6 or 7 o'clock, what can happen is my volume will decrease, my words will slur. So if I don't have to talk after 6, 7 o'clock, I will not. I will kind of pretty put that aside. I said, well, hopefully I have that the next day to start with, and then maybe have a little more time to talk the way I want to. So as far as physicality and speech, that was my method as far as rehabbing, and I think it worked pretty well.
I'd say it did, Eric. And you are back to work. You are actually in a
Yes.
new position. And can you just tell us a little bit about how did you get back to work and what that was like for you and what kind of adjustments maybe you had to
Okay.
accommodate?
Okay. About, I'm gonna say 2019 or so. I had an appointment with my cardiologist. I was not working yet at all, and I said, I would like to go back to work. And he said, how do you feel? I said, I feel fine. And he said, you can go back to work, but make me a promise that you only go back part time,
Hmm.
just to get acclimated to something I haven't done in, 6, 7 years. And I said, fine. So my first part time position was with Enterprise Rent a Car, and 20 hours a week or so. And I realized that when I talk to somebody, I might get, can you repeat that? Or can you say that again, slower? So I realized my voice was where it was, but not where I wanted it to be. And the same thing physically. I would maybe say I'll walk a straight line, and all of a sudden I might maybe lean to the left or lean to the right, and then realize that everyday happenings, I wasn't back to where my balance was. And I just dealt with it. I didn't really, never complained about it. I would actually bring up, I had a stroke 5, 6 years ago, but that would be a last resort because I didn't want to blurt that out. And for about maybe 6 years, I worked part time until about a year and a half ago, I did attain a full time job, and that was the time that I actually looked up aphasia because that was last summer. Um, I'm back to part time because I realized working full time, my dexterity as far as typing wasn't really there, and my voice was not there for an 8 to 5 time period. So I'm back on SSDI or SSID, however you want to say it, working part time again with the intentions of working full time again. But I'm gonna take my time and get the right position that's good for me. But it feels good even working part time every day. And the best compliment that I'd like to get that I've already gotten at my new job is, if you didn't tell me you had a stroke, I would have never guessed it. If I get that once a day or once a week, I'm good.
So much of it came from inside of you, the inspiration from your parents. I love the people on the shoulder analogy because I think of that all the time because we do have those voices in our head.
Yes.
And you have been persistent and you have come out at the other end of the continuum of aphasia and recovery. Yes, you still have some things you have to account for, like when your voice gets tired and such at night, your dexterity, maybe leaning when you're tired, but you have life, you have purpose, you're giving back. And that's the inspiration. That's why your story is so very important for so many to hear.
Thank you very much, Genevieve.
It
Nice to
has,
hear those words.
heck yeah. Well, I'll send you the recording and you can play those back. So if somebody didn't, if somebody doesn't tell you, you can just play that clip right back for yourself. You're doing it, Eric. Happy to know you, happy to call you a friend, and let's meet again. Maybe we'll get on with Phil and we'll have a fun discussion about how to get from point A to point, what would we call it? It's not point B, it's not Z, it's it's to life
Keep the
beyond.
search going. Just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep
And
going.
I would, and Phil is incredible, and he he's an inspiration also because the effort he puts in as far as to dedicating himself to aphasia. I wish I had that for some of my rehab stints because he never gives up. He
No.
never ever gives up, and he's helped hundreds of people also. So anytime I can go on with you and Phil, that'd be a pleasure. That'd be great.
That's awesome. Well, Eric, thank you for your time. And folks, thank you for being here for another episode. I know you got some great nuggets from Eric, and I hope you can apply it to your life. Thanks again, Eric, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Genevieve.